If you're ready to harness the power of your communications data, blast off with Nylas today.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Coding with Nylas, the live stream where we talk about programming, APIs, and much more. My name is Blag, CEO advocate.
And my name's Ram.
So, hello Ram, how are you today?
I am doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fine, just kind of like a little bit tired. Yes,
Well, the
it's
weekend's
hard
here,
to-
so
and it's getting hotter each day.
yep. So what are we talking about today?
So today it's kind of like more exploratory, more kind of POC, more try to see what we can do. So we're gonna see how to manage your contacts using Pynecone. And Pynecone, it's kind of like a framework for Python where you can create the whole front end and back end using Python. So let me share my screen so we can see the
Yeah,
Pynecone.
this is really interesting. I know we've done a few different frameworks with building with Python, so I'm excited to see this one.
Yeah, this one is pretty cool. I mean, everything you do in Python, and I think in the front end is gonna use React to create all the front end. So, for example, you can create an H stack, which is gonna put everything in horizontal, and then you use button to create a button, a heading to create a title, button to create another button, and then you can just kind of like start using it. So, like here, for example, here we have two buttons, decrement and increment. You have the count on the state, and you just can click the buttons, and it's gonna start modifying. And this is pure Python, which is pretty amazing. Now, I wanted to mention that Pinecone is not production ready. There's a lot of things that need to be worked on, but I think it's kind of like pretty cool to experiment and see what we can do with it. So I'm gonna run it. Start for it. We're gonna wait for it to start. So here it's using ban, and ban is kind of like a bundler that installs everything related to, I think, to Node and React in a pretty fast way. So now we can jump into our localhost, and this is what it's going to do. It's going to load our contacts. So we can see Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Bret Hart, and myself. And here you can see that we have slots for first name, last name, company name, whatever. So if I press here, update, it's going to grab my picture and it's going to grab all my information. So let's say I would like to change something. So my postal code is not 123, it's actually XYZ123. So, and here's when it comes something funny or weird about Pancon. I'm gonna press submit, but I haven't found a way to like display a pop-up or anything like that. I mean, there's a way, but it needs to be kind of tied to the backend. So I haven't found a way to press a button, do something, and then display the pop-up. So we're gonna submit, and we're gonna assume that it has been done. Everything is beautiful. So my postal code should be upgraded. The problem is if I reload, you're gonna see that it's here, but just because it's on the same side. So the problem right now with Pinecone is that it keeps everything on a state, but the state remains on the server side, not on the uh, client side. So there's not really a way for me to just go and grab that information and bring it back here. So what I would need to do is I would need to shut down the server and run it again, which is not ideal, but it's what we can do for now. I mean, I think Pinecone is pretty amazing. You can create this pretty fast, uh, but it's not for this kind of application that I'm doing right now. So it has been reloaded. If I load myself, then we can see that it was updated. And now you see another problem with Pinecone. This is actually a placeholder. So I can type in here, but as soon as I go out, it's just going to assume that there's nothing there. So it's going to send information back to the server, and it's going to say, sorry, it's empty. There's nothing. And actually, it's empty because I said, please be empty, because otherwise I cannot do anything else. Otherwise, it's going to be just completely empty. I'm not going to be able to put anything. So I'm just going to copy here, Foxborough again. Now, we can take with the other ones. And now we're going to see something else that is kind of funny for me. So here on Nylas Debrel, we're going to say that the postal code, it's, let's say, 12345. I'm going to press here. I'm going to press submit, and it's going to update it on the server. But now, if we go, for example, to Bret Hart, you're going to see, oh, it's the same postal code, which is kind of funny, right? But if I delete it because this is a placeholder, it was grabbing the correct one, but it just deleted because it's kind of a placeholder. So you might think probably you can use another kind of component like a regular input button or input box. The problem is when you pass the value, it's not editable, so you cannot change it. And these are things that the Pynecone team is working, they are aware of. So we're working on that. But there are things that kind of like doesn't make the experience of building an application like this one like too engaging and happy. I mean, actually spent a lot of time. Pynecone is pretty nice. There's a lot of hype around it, but there's not really a huge community around it. So whenever you have an issue, there's not really a way to get some help. Still, I found it fascinating. I mean, that you can actually do it, do this on Python. So that's it. Let's make a little pause. Yes, Ron.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You went through a variety of different frameworks. So it's always interesting to see the developer experience when you build with them to see how intuitive it is to build stuff.
Yeah, exactly. For some, like I said, for some sort of applications, that would work great.
Yeah.
But for the kind of things that we build, not yet.
Okay. Yeah, well, that was exciting. It was nice to kind of go through something exploratory and see how it works, and just to try it out. There's a lot of learning there as well. So that was exciting for you to walk us through.
Yep. So I just want to mention that don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember, the more subscribers that we have, the more likes that we have, the more content we can produce, the more happy we're going to be. And also, the more happy our bosses are going to be. So just like and subscribe.
Yep. Go ahead and follow us on the interwebs, please. Any comments, any feedback, we'd love to hear from you.
Sure. So let me now share the source code, which I'm sure everybody wants to see. So here it is. We're going to make this a little bit bigger. And we're going to start kind of from like the bottom. So this part here is going to be the front end. So we're going to have index, which is going to be obviously our main page. So here we're going to create all the front end. So we're going to use PC from Pynecone, center, just to have everything centered. We're going to have a B stack, which is going to put things on the vertical side, another B stack, then an horizontal stack. Then we're going to have the heading, which is going to be contacts. So let me show you here. It's going to be here, this contacts. We're going to use a flex, and inside we're going to put a box, which is going to be a table container, which is going to have a table, a head, a table row, a table header. So it's going to create the names here. Here, what we're going to do, we're going to create the body, and we're going to do a for each, because here in this state contacts, we're going to have all our contacts. So the for each is just going to loop it. It's going to grab the full name, and it's going to attach a button, which is going to say update. So it's going to grab each of my contacts. It's going to put the full name here, So first name and last name, and also it's gonna put a button here that we can click. When we click on that button, we're gonna call this get contact detail function, and we're gonna pass the full name as a way to be able to grab the content for that particular contact. Here we're gonna say that the background is gonna be red, the color is gonna be white, so it's gonna look like this. We're using a background color, a border, and a border radius. So that has this little curvature here. It has the background color. And then on the other side, we're going to start with the image of the contact, which is this one here. And we're grabbing that from our state. So on our state, we're going to have all the information like the name, last name, profile picture, etc. Here, we're going to have another stack. So we're going to be able to have the first name. So this one here. And here we're going to have an editable text box. This one is going to have as a placeholder the contact name, as you can see here. So if I click, you see that it turns kind of like a different color because it's actually a placeholder. So I'm just going to type something so it doesn't disappear. And here on submit, it means that if I, for example, change it here and say Macho Man Savage, when I do this information is going to go into state. So it's going to replace what we had before. So that way, when we do the submit, it's going to be able to grab that information and send it to be updated. If I were to comment this, then what would happen is that this information will never make it to the state, and we just would have the same information that we had before.
So just to clarify, all the state you mentioned before is maintained on the back end.
Yes.
So every time you make an update, it's actually making a network request to update the state of the back end. And then based on that, you can do something else. For example, in our case, we would be updating the contact information using Nylas.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to jump into state in a second. So here we're just creating the country, the address, and everything else that we need.
Okay.
Here at the very end, we're going to have another button, which is going to be this submit here. And we're going to call another function called update contact. We're going to pass the contact ID, contact name, and all the information that we can actually update. So that's kind of like for the front end. If we go up, as always, we're going to import Pynecone. We're going to import .env and the Nylas SDK for Python. We're also going to grab pandas. Here, we're going to initialize our client. And here is where we're going to grab our contacts. So here, if you can see, I'm creating a lot of lists. So we have one for each element, like full name, last name, emails, etc. Here, what I'm doing is grabbing all the contacts from my address book. I'm limited to 5, and I create a group just to have them grouped together. I'm going to read them, and here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab each name, and I'm going to append it to its corresponding list. Why I'm doing that? Because I want to create a pandas data frame with that information. So here I'm going to grab everything. Here I'm going to create kind of like a dictionary. So we're going to have like ID, full name, etc. And here I'm going to create a pandas data frame. Why? Because Pynecone works with only primitive datasets or primitive objects. So a pandas data frame happens to be one of them. So passing that data frame, I have all the information that I need in one place. Here I'm going to have a class contact. And this class contact is going to help me when creating this button and link it to each of the contacts. So again here, and you see it's kind of like repetitive. We're going to have here the information, full names, last names, etc. Here I'm gonna do is initialization, and I'm just gonna pass each of them into the values that we have here. So kind of like the state have all of that. Then this is kind of like the important one. So this is the state, and this is where all the information is gonna reside on the backend. Here we have again all the same information: company, email, profile picture, etc. And here what we're gonna do is we're gonna call this function to grab all the contacts as a pandas data frame. I'm gonna create a list here, and I'm gonna loop through the contacts. I'm gonna identify them, and I'm gonna be able to put them here so they appear on my table. To get the contact details, I'm gonna grab the full name. I'm gonna go through Ethernet contacts, and once I have a match, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab that particular element and I'm gonna assign it into uh, the state so it can appear here. Here you see I'm saying that if there's no information, I would like to show empty. Why? Because if I were, for example, to grab this and type nothing, like I said, if I don't put empty or any other text, it's just gonna be nothing in there. So there's not gonna be a way for me to actually click and make it editable. So this is something that they need to work on as well. So here for the update, and we can ignore this print, obviously. What we're gonna do is we're gonna grab the ID, we're gonna grab the contact, we're gonna grab all the information that we want to update, and we can simply can do a contact save, and that's gonna save the information contact for that contact on the Nylas site. Here, like I said, for example, if I change something here, so instead of empty job title, it's gonna be like wrestler. This one is gonna call on the of submit property, and this one is gonna say that if the name is not empty, we want to use empty. Otherwise, we want to use whatever we type in here. And this is what it's going to do. It is going to replace the value on the state so that when we submit, we have always the up-to-date value. So that's kind of like the source code. You can see it's kind of like pretty expensive. There's a lot of things that needs to be repeated. But I think that's the way it is for now. Probably it's my lack of knowledge on Pinecone. I just grab it and start trying to do something with it. Probably there's a better way to do this. But at least I wanted to kind of like explore and show what can be done with Pinecone.
Yeah, that was really cool. I learned a lot. I didn't. I think you mentioned as well that with Pinecone, it actually uses React under the hood, so you can actually bring in React components and integrate them into your Pinecone application.
Yes.
So that I've noticed a lot of concepts are very similar to how a React frontend would work. It's just abstracted to Python using Pinecone.
Yes, exactly. That's a lot of things that we actually need to kind of like explore. I mean, it's
Yep.
kind of new. But I mean, it's cool anyway. I think it's the way it's going is pretty cool. I mean, to be able to create all the front end just using Python is fantastic, especially for something like me that web development is not my thing. I mean, if you actually see the way I design things, it's not the best. I really bad at combining colors or like doing a nice UX design. So something like this really helps me a lot.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, that was great. Anything else?
Yeah, just don't forget to mention that we have live streams every Wednesday and Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. Pacific time. Don't forget to check our developers.nylas.com site where you can see all the documentation. Also, just to let you know that we have SDKs available for Ruby, Node, Python, and Java. And the last thing before we go is that next time we're gonna take a short break. So there's not gonna be a live stream next week. We're gonna come back with more content the week after.
Yep. So stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned, stay healthy, and just let us know. Hit us on social. Let us know what you think about the show. If you want to be a guest, just give us a thumbs up. Let us know, and we're gonna do our best to bring you the best show ever.
Awesome. Thanks, Blag. That was great.
Yeah, thanks, Fran. Always happy to see you. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Bye. Take care, everyone.
Bye.